Today I'm going to be sharing a really quick, really easy amigurumi project. I actually used this project to teach a class at Snap Conference, and I'm sharing the video here showing all the instructions. So this is the owl that we're going to be making as far as the face and everything in the class, but I'm going to show you how to make these different options. The body and the wings are all the same on all of them. I'm just sharing a few different ways to do the faces and things like that. But it should be just a really quick and easy project, a great beginner amigurumi project if you'd like to just learn a little bit about how to do increases, decreases, crocheting in the round, beginning with a magic circle, sewing on, in this case, wings, but other pieces, and putting on the faces. So hopefully you enjoy this little quick amigurumi project. In order to make the owl, you're going to need two things: some yarn and a hook. We will need some more supplies as we get closer to the end, but this is what you need to get started. We'll talk a little bit later about eyes and the beak and how to add those things, as well as like sewing on the wings and things. But to get started, these are the first two things that you're going to need: some worsted weight yarn, not too much, and a G crochet hook, or 4.25 millimeter. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is make a magic ring. To do that, what I do, there's different ways to do this. What I do is I wrap the yarn around my finger, and then I stick my hook underneath of both of those yarns, and I pull up this one, and then I chain one, and that kind of locks the loop. And then from here I'm going to work around both the circle and the thread that I have left over the tail. I'm going to work 6 single crochet. That's your first round, is 6 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's your first round. To tighten up and close that circle, you're just going to pull on this tail, and it'll just cinch that closed. Pull it nice and tight so it really kind of locks it in place. And then I usually just kind of crochet over that tail to just secure it a little bit more. And I haven't ever had any problems with it coming undone when I do that with amigurumi and stuffed items. You'll want to weave it in more securely if you're using it as like a center on a blanket or a granny square or other types of things like that. But for this, usually just working over it works pretty well. So for the second round, we're going to be increasing. When you're increasing using single crochet, you will work more than one single crochet into a stitch. So in this next round, we're going to be doubling the number of stitches. We're going to go from 6 to 12. So we're going to work 2 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So go into that first single crochet, oops, and work 1, 2, and then just do that all the way around on this whole round until you have a total of 12 stitches. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that's your round 2. You've worked 12 stitches, so your circle's gotten bigger. We're going to continue to increase 6 single crochet per round. So we started with 6, then we added 12. The next round, we're not going to add 2 in each stitch. We're going to add 6 more stitches for a total of 18. So on your first round, you have, the way I like to think about it is on my first round I have 6 times 1. On the second round it's 6 times 2, so I have 2 stitches in each one. On the next round it's 6 times 3, so you do 3 stitches for every one in the first row. So I'm going to work 2 stitches in my first single crochet and then 1 in the next. Then 2 in the next and 1 in the next after that. So for every 2 stitches, you're going to be working 3 stitches. So we'll work 2 stitches in this first one. And then 1 in the next. So that's 3. And then 2 in the next one. So 4, 5, and then 1 in the next gives us 6. 2 in the next stitch, 7, 8, and 1 in the next gives us 9. Then 10, 11, and 1 in the next gives us 12. 2, 13, 14, and then 1 gives us 15. 16, 17, and 1 gives us 18, and that finishes our round. So there we've got 3 rounds. The next round we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be 6 times 4, which is 24. So we're going to work, for every 3 stitches, we're going to work 4 stitches. So basically it's 4 stitches for every 1 stitch we had in that first round. So we're going to do the same thing, but instead of working 2 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1, we're going to work 2 and then 1 and then 1. And that's going to give us our 4. And then we'll work 2, 1, 1, and that'll give us another 4. And we're going to do that all the way around. So the first stitch we're going to go 1, 2, and then 1 in the next one. That's 3. And then 1 in the next one. And that gives us 4. And then we're going to do the same thing. 2 in this first one, 5 and 6. And then another 1 in the next one, 7, and 1 in the next one after that gives us 8. Then 2 in the next one, 9, 10. 1 in the next one, 11, and 1 in the next one is 12. So we're halfway around. 2 in the next one, 13, 14. 1 in the next 2, 15, and 16. Then in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 more, 17, 18, and then 1 gives us 19, and then 20. And one more time, 21, 22, then 1 gives us 23, and another one gives us 24, and that completes our round. So that is our 4th round. You can see kind of, it's a spiral because we're not ending our rounds, but you can kind of see as each round spirals around. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds from that center. This is a good time to use stitch markers. I am really bad about using stitch markers, but if you put a stitch marker in your first stitch, then you can always kind of tell where you need to end. So that's a really good idea, kind of a do as I say, not as I do type of a thing, because I'm really bad at using them. And if I had one on hand, I would show you how to do it, but I always misplace mine, so. The next round, we're going to do a straight round because we want it to kind of start curving in a little bit more. Like it's a relatively flat circle at this point. And we're not completely done with our increases, but sometimes when you're increasing and you want it to kind of slow the increase just a little bit, you'll do a straight round. So we're going to just do 24 stitches in the next round, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So you can see if you look at it, it's kind of starting to curve, kind of bowl in a little bit. So this is the right side of our owl. This side is the wrong side. So you want to make sure you kind of bend it out so that it starts curving with the inside portion in and the outside portion facing out. So the side that's facing you as you work, that's your right side of your work. If you were to work it like this, then your outside would be this part that's facing away from you, but that's not the right way. You flip it like that, and kind of the prettier side. I don't know, I know some people who use the outside as their right side, or the inside part as their right side, but I have always done it this way. So our next round, we're going to do one more increase round. So we've done 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3, 6 times 4, and then just one in each one again around. So now we're going to do 30, so 6 times 5. So we're going to do 5 stitches for every 4 stitches. So we're going to add an increased stitch here, and then, so that'll be 2, and then we'll do 1, 2, 3 individual stitches, which will give us 5 until we have 30 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2, 6, 7, and then 3 more gives us 5 more, 8, 9, and 10. 2 more. Oops. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then again, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and again 2 in this one, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And then one more set of 5, so 2 in the next one, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And that is going to be our last increase round, and you can see it's kind of forming that bowl shape that's going to be the bottom of our owl body. Now this is when I really do wish I had a stitch marker, because we're going to do, let me look at my pattern really quick, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows that are straight. So it's going to just bring it straight up. 4 rows of, or rounds, I guess, of 30 stitches. So we're just going to do 30 in the next one, and then 30 in the next one, and then 30 in the next one, and 30 in the next one. And at that point, we'll start decreasing so that it starts to curve back in. But to start, we will go ahead and do a round of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Oops, I got cut a little bit. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And now I'm going to do 3 more rows just like that, of just going around 30 single crochet, 1 single crochet in each stitch. And so then that's just the next 3 rows. So go ahead and just continue on with your owl for 3 more rows, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I've finished 3 more rows of the 30 single crochet. So now I have a total of 10 rounds worked on my owl body. And this completes all of my increase rounds, as well as all of my straight rounds that just kind of give it height. Now we're going to start decreasing and making it curve in. This owl doesn't curve in and decrease as much as some things would. Like if you were making a circle, you're going to curve it in a lot more, but it'll still show you how decreases work and how you get them. So hopefully it'll still help you understand how that works. So when you work a decrease in single crochet, when we worked an increase, we worked 2 stitches in 1. When you work a decrease, you work 1 stitch in 2. Or it's also called single crochet 2 together. That's usually how I write it in my patterns, but when you single crochet 2 together or make a single crochet decrease, you stick your hook in the first stitch, pull up a loop just like you would as if you were doing a regular single crochet. But instead of wrapping your yarn over and finishing that single crochet, you just stop right here, and then you stick your hook in the next stitch and pull up a loop as well. So now you have 3 loops on your hook and you've worked in 2 stitches. Then you yarn over and you pull through all 3 of those loops. So that is 1 single crochet stitch, but it's worked over 2 stitches. So that's going to be your first decrease. Now what we're going to do is, if you remember, we were working in 6s. And it's not always going to be 6s. In fact, you'll see our next round it won't be, but I usually always try to make sure that my decreases are a multiple of whatever number I have. So right now I have 30 stitches in my round. So I want to take it out in an even number. So I'm going to take away 6 stitches. So I'm going to go back down to 24, which was our last number we had. We had 6, 12, 18, 24, and then 30. And now we're going back to 24. So since 24 is 6 times 4, and we need to take out 6 stitches, we're going to do 4 stitches in each kind of clump of stitches. So we're going to do that by working 1 decrease stitch followed by 3 single crochets, and that will give us a total of 4. So we're working 4 stitches across 5 stitches. So this first decrease is our first stitch, and then we're going to work a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And that will give us 4. Oops, I lost my loop. Okay, so that's our first 4 stitches. And now we're just going to repeat that 6 times. So single crochet 2 together. So insert hook, pull up loop, insert hook in the next stitch, pull up loop, wrap yarn around, and pull through all 3. So that's 1 stitch, which would be our 5th stitch, and then 1 in the next 3. So 6, 7, 8. Another decrease. So in the one, pull up a loop, in the next, pull up a loop, yarn over. That's 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then we're going to do the next again, 2 single crochet over 2. That's 13, 14, 15, and 16. So then again, single crochet 2 together. That's 17. And then in the next 3, 18, 19, and 20. And then one more time, single crochet 2 together to decrease. And that makes 21, 22, 23, and 24. So now see if you can kind of see, it's not a huge change, but you can kind of see that starting to curve in now. And because of the way that the owl is shaped, we're not going to do a very drastic curve. So sometimes from here you would then go back to 18. So you decrease and then work in the next 2, and then decrease, work in the next 2 until you had 18, and then 12, and then 6, and you'd close it back up. But we're not going to do that drastic of a decrease. In fact, we're going to now do 2 rounds that are straight. So again, just 24 stitches, 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then 1 single crochet in each stitch. So our next 2 rounds are just going to be that. Now we're going to do another decrease round, but this time we're not going to decrease in the same multiple. So we're not going to decrease by 6 because 24 goes into other numbers as well. This time we're actually going to decrease by 4. So if we subtract 4 from 24, we're going to get 20, which is 4 times 5. So we're going to do 5 single crochet in each section, each like decrease amount. So we're going to work 5 single crochets across every 6. So what that means is we're going to do our decrease, our single crochet 2 together. So insert in, pull up a loop, and then insert in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to repeat that again. So single crochet 2 together, and that gives us 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then again, single crochet 2 together, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then one more time to get our 20, single crochet 2 together, gives you 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Now at this point, we're going to do one more round of 20. This is as much as we're decreasing, but if you flatten it out, you can kind of see how it's curved in slightly at the top, which for this particular project is as much as we want it to decrease. But it shows you how you do the decreases and how you do the increases. So hopefully Making this will kind of help you understand a little bit more the shaping and the construction involved with amigurumi projects. So we're going to work one more round of 20 single crochet, just one single crochet in each stitch, and then that's going to be our last round before we move on to the next step. So that is as far as we're going to crochet at this point. Then we're going to stuff it, and then we're going to close it up. And then after that, we'll make some wings and we'll add those to the side. Okay, so the next step in making our owl is going to be stuffing it, unless I'm going to show several different ways to put eyes on here. And one of the ways you can put eyes on is safety eyes. Safety eyes are the one that you're going to need to do before you stuff it. The others, I usually wait until afterwards so I can kind of see where I'm placing them. So when we close up our owl, we're going to stitch across the top. So we want to just kind of lay it so it's flat with the hook, like the last stitch you worked, on the side, because we're going to just stitch through both of those so that it closes it up at the top. So it's going to be pinched closed right there, so that you can kind of see where you're going to want your eyes. Now, safety eyes, so this is what a safety eye looks like. It's just kind of a round curved eye with this little end that almost looks like a screw, but it's more, I can't see it very well. It's just kind of got, like, I don't know, little rings around it. And then there's these little washer things that stick on it. I'm not going to put it on right now or I won't be able to get it off, but those go on it inside. So what you do is you decide where you want your eyes to be. So I always kind of just poke them in, sort of see where I would like, and you figure it's going to have a little beak right there. So maybe you want them closer together, maybe you want them further apart. You kind of just decide on your placement. I think I'm going to go right about there. You can also get different colors. These ones, it's really hard to tell in the video, but there's kind of a clear ring around them. You can get solid black. You can get other colors behind with blue or green or yellow with the black center. So for these ones, what you're going to do at this point is you need to attach your washers on the back end. So you poke your little screw end things through here, and then you're just going to put your washers on the back. Oh, if I can get it through. And you want it to be pressed right up against there so it keeps it on nice and tight. And same thing here. I ordered my eyes that I'm using in this project on Amazon. I don't know that they're the highest quality, but they work for something like this. You need to be careful with safety eyes if you're going to be giving it to a really small child. Even though they're supposed to be, like, they're called safety eyes because they're supposed to be safe, they aren't supposed to come off, and they shouldn't. I mean, it's on there pretty secure, but that's not to say that it couldn't get pulled through or something like that. These ones feel like they're on pretty good, but I have had my kids pull them out of different projects before. So just, you know, FYI, if you're going to be giving it to little kids to use, you might want to choose a different type of eye, which I'll show you some more at the end. But to start with, we're going to show these ones just because they have to be put on at this point. Then the next thing we're going to want to do is just stuff it. It always takes more stuffing than you would think because you kind of mashed in there. And just kind of shape it a little bit so that it all fits the way you want. Don't get your tail in there. That's not a good thing. All right, so I think that's probably enough stuffing for this little guy. So now we're going to finish closing up this part. Okay, so we're going to close up the top of our owl. So what we're going to do for this is I'm going to put my hook back in there. I'm going to kind of try to stuff that stuffing down just a little bit lower so I've got a clean top here. I'm going to work into the first stitch and this last stitch. So my hook goes through both of those stitches, and I'm going to pull up a loop of yarn and I'm going to do a single crochet. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these next two. The stitch next to the first stitch and the stitch next to the last stitch. And I'm going to single crochet. I'm going to do that all the way across the top, and you had 20 stitches in this last round, so you should have 10 stitches across the top because you're working into 2 stitches at once. So just kind of continue working across there. That's 3 stitches. And if at this point, as you're closing it up, anytime you're kind of at the point of closing up your amigurumi, whether you're sewing something together, sometimes if you have like an arm or a leg, it's open until you're sewing it on, or if you have a head that you're stitching closed, or that sometimes you're just decreasing until it's smaller and smaller and smaller until it closes up. And at that point, anytime you feel like you need to add more stuffing, you can do that. Just stuff a little bit more in there. Just make sure you do it before you get the hole too small and you can't fit anything in there anymore. But I think I'm okay for stuffing, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish stitching across here. Until I get to the end, and I think that should be 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, and 1 last set of stitches to go, and I end up with 10. And then just to kind of finish off and secure it, I always just do a chain and then pull it tight. And then you'll just want to snip that yarn and just pull that through, and then we'll just need to weave in this end of the yarn. But there is the body of your little owl. Kind of think I should have put those eyes up just a little bit higher, but oh well, that's where they're going to be for now. So the next thing that we're going to need to do, besides weaving in that tail, which I'll do in just a second when I have my needle out, is we're going to need to make the wings. We're obviously going to need to make 2 of these, but once again, I start with a magic ring. The difference this time is in my first round, I'm actually going to be working double crochets. So what I'm going to do, that doesn't have a very long tail, just a second. Okay, so instead of just chaining 1 to start, I'm actually going to chain 2 so I have the height that I need. And then I'm going to work 6 double crochet into this magic ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the other thing that I'm going to be doing differently with this is I'm still going to pull this tight so that I can cinch it up, but I'm not going to be working into this because I'm not going to like join it into a circle. I actually am keeping it flat like that, and I'm going to turn and work back around the other way. And the magic ring in this case just gives me a nice tight center, but I'm actually going to be making more of like a semicircle shape rather than a circle. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to turn my work. And I'm going to then work 2 single crochet in each of the double crochet. So I had 6 double crochet, so I'm going to have 12 single crochet. So there's 2 in the first one, 2 in the second one, 2 in the third one, 2 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th. Oh, my tail's getting in the way. And 2 in the 6th, and that gives me my 12. And that is going to be my wing. And we're going to stitch that wing right on the side of our little owl. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn, but I'm going to leave myself a pretty long tail so that I can use that tail to then stitch the wing to the side. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to make another wing exactly the same as this wing, so I can have one for each side of my little owl. Now, I always like to put the last round as the right side because you can see kind of the top of those single crochets and it just gives it a nice finished edge. Whereas the back I feel like looks unfinished and not as pretty. So this is the way that I always do the front, or this is the side I always use as the front. And then you're just going to stitch those little wings to each side of your little owl body. Okay, so to finish off our little owl, we're going to need to weave in this end and sew on the wings and also give him a beak. And if we chose not to do safety eyes, I'm going to show you a couple other options that you can choose to do instead. So just thread my needle really quick. Okay, so to weave in your end, basically you just need to go through some of the stitches. I usually go back and forth a couple of times just to really secure it, and make sure when you turn back around that you don't go right into the stitch that you just came out of, but you go like one. So like I just came out of here, so skip like that first bar and go in just so that you don't pull your stitches right out. Once you've secured it nicely, you can just clip that extra little bit and that part's done. I'm going to go ahead and thread the extra tail from my wing onto my yarn needle. Decide where I want that placed. You want it kind of centered along that side where your seam edges. And I typically just kind of like whip stitch it on, just going through the owl body and the wing to secure it. So just go through the stitches along the side of the wing and through one of the rows of the owl body. And like I said, I just kind of whip stitch it on there, just make it nice and secure. And once that is complete, again, you'll just want to weave in your tail. I'm actually going to kind of come back to the back so I can make it less noticeable. Just weave through a row of stitches. Just go for a few stitches and then pull it through, turn around, go back through the other way just to kind of lock it in place. And then I usually go back through again. And a lot of times when I'm doing something like this, just to kind of hide my ends inside a little bit more, I usually just kind of stitch through somewhere in the body so that I can trim my yarn and have it just kind of disappear inside. So, one wing sewn on. Do the same thing with the other side. since we already had the safety eyes on, I just thought I'd show the wings really quick, and then I'm going to show a couple other options for eyes, and then I'm going to show you a couple of options for the beak. So one option for the eyes is buttons. So like I have these ones that are oh my goodness, I keep dropping them. They're a dark brown wooden button, so they'll be kind of cute if you wanted them to be in place of where those safety eyes are, just a little wooden button eye. You can also, there's black buttons, kind of some, just to give you an idea. Or shank buttons are kind of nice. I couldn't find a black one in my button jar, but they're kind of nice because they kind of give you the same look as the safety eye, where it's just a smooth flat circle. So buttons are an option. Again, buttons are not a good option if you're making it for a small child because they can easily be pulled off and they're less secure than the safety eyes, but they are an option and they can look cute. Another option that I've done in the past is to use felt. I'm just going to cut a couple small pieces out of this and show you kind of what I have done. So I would start by cutting a circle similar in size to some of these buttons that I pulled out. Actually, I would cut it out of the white first. And then I would just cut a second one to match in size. This is a really great way if you're wanting to make them quick and if you're going to be using them, I don't know, maybe for something that's not going to get as much like handling. But I made a bunch of Christmas ornaments that were owls, and I did this, and some people may not like to do this because I hot glued my eyes onto my owl, and some people may not want to do that with their owls because you're gluing on your crochet, but I thought it worked really well for the Christmas ornament, so it's definitely an option. So I started with white circles that were a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to use my white one here as kind of a beginning point. And then I'm going to cut the black one down just a little bit so that it's smaller than the white one and kind of fits inside. So kind of like that. It's a little bit more ovally. Just kind of play around with it. It's not, I don't know. I don't have like a pattern for the size or anything, just whatever size you think is going to work. And then once you've done that, go ahead and cut a second little black eye out that's the same size. All right, and then, oh, I've got little fuzzies all over my owl now. So what I did was I just glued the white eyes on the owl and the black eyes in the center. And then I would maybe cut down those black eyes just a little bit more, but that kind of gives you the idea. And then to go along with those felt eyes, I also just would glue on a little felt beak. So that is one way of finishing. And I just, like I said, you could use hot glue or fabric glue to just glue those pieces on. You can also, if you do the safety eyes, you could do the little felt beak. Same thing if you do button eyes. The last option for your eyes would be to stitch them on and just kind of like embroider them. I have a hard time with that because I can never get mine very even, so I prefer one of the other methods, but that is another option if you want to use that. The other option for a beak would also be embroidering it. I have a little bit less difficulty embroidering a triangle than I do embroidering circles. And so I don't know the best way, to be honest, so I usually just knot my yarn a little bit on one side, and then I'll start from the other side, so it's like on the back, and then I'll poke my needle through from the back to where I want it to come out. And then I usually just kind of like yank it a little bit to pull it through and make sure the end goes in. I kind of had a long tail on that one, so. And then I just try to pull it, to not pull it too hard so that the knot pulls through the other side, but so that it just kind of stays inside. So now I have my yarn where I want it to be. I just decide kind of where I want my triangle shape to be and find, and then I just kind of start stitching back and forth kind of to that point. I'm actually going to bring this one down just a little bit lower because I feel like my point's kind of disappearing with all of those threads. And then just kind of play with it so it's kind of the shape that you're going for. So that's kind of how the embroidered beak would look. So those would give you a few different options for finishing your owl. I'm just going to clip this thread here. And the other thing that you can do, if you would like, that kind of gives it a fun finish, is to give it little tufts on its ears. And the way that you do that is you cut some lengths of yarn. I'm just going to do 4. We'll do 2 on each side. They don't need to be super long for this size of owl. And even these are too long, but we'll trim them. And then what I do is I just stick my hook in kind of the point of the ear kind of thing here. And then I fold these 2 strands in half, and I grab the middle and pull it through. And then grab all of them and pull them through there. And then just tighten it there. And then take the other 2 and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm just going to stick it in there, pull the middle of these 2 loops. Oh, got a piece of felt stuck in there. So it gives you kind of a loop there. And then pull all of those strands through that loop. Pull on it to tighten. And then you can just trim those down to however long you want them to be. And that's kind of another fun little finish you can do to your owl. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you can finish it and make a cute little beginner amigurumi project. Play around with increases, decreases, stitching on, in this case, wings, but other pieces. And there you go. There's a little owl.